Hello, and welcome to another episode of What's Happening South Miami-Dade, the news program that brings you all of the tools, the resources, the what's happening, the leaders of South Miami-Dade that are really on the brink of making things happen and making a difference. Today, I happen to be with my fellow Gulliver parent, Alejandra Molina Shuk, who is going to talk to us about her wellness journey as well as a new developmental application that helps people with their wellness and their wholeness. So, coming to the stage, I'd like to bring Alejandra. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Monique. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for
So
inviting me.
wonderful, wonderful. So, I know that you are involved with a lot. I know that you're on this wholeness journey, this wellness journey. Tell us how you got to where you are.
I started my career in human resources and philanthropy many, many years ago. And as life progressed and I went to grad school, I got married, became a mom, started leadership positions, I started following my curiosity in finding resources to cope with stress, to better manage stress, to create my own well-being, to manage my own burnout caused by wanting to do it all. And that curiosity and what I was seeing in the field of working with low-income communities and then in human resources with very talented professionals who were also experiencing burnout led me to a whole new career.
Wow.
Coaching and to meditation teaching.
Wonderful. So you would say that this whole wholeness journey, you are a coach, right? Executive coach. You do mindfulness. I know you walked in here and everybody was already telling you or asking you about, how do I combat stress? And it just so happens we're getting ready to actually walk into a mental health awareness month for May. So this is like perfect timing for you to be able to come in and talk to us about this. But let me ask you, where do people, you think, go wrong with managing stress?
I think that we all have a very individual relationship to stress. And it goes wrong when we think that stress is a bad thing, that it's a thing to get rid of. And we actually have EU stress, which is positive stress. And then we have, chronic stress, which are those negative causes of stress that keep repeating themselves. And how we relate to it and how we learn to integrate it and manage it is the place where we can, build more skills, find more resources to be able to hold the good and the bad that comes in our lives.
Wow. And what would you say are some of the, best practices, right? I think, everybody deals with stress, and I think everybody deals with stress in different ways, right? But what would you say are, I would say, it's the best practices in helping people deal with day-to-day stress?
So I think that one is meditation, especially mindfulness meditation, because it trains your attention. It allows you to become the witness of your thoughts and emotions. So you're able to separate fact from story. And you're able to really observe and realize the impermanence of things and be able to hold the situation that is happening. The second one is breath work. It is the fastest nervous system regulation. You can upregulate or downregulate if you know how to breathe for what you need. And the third one is the thought patterns that we have. And mindfulness really helps you realize how you think, what the mind chatter is telling you. Because sometimes it's not the situation, it's, how we are framing it.
And would you say that, I guess, those practices work for adults as well as children?
They do, but they work differently.
Okay.
So in the case of adults, we have adult brains.
Right.
And so we're not blank slates in many ways. So there's a lot of unconscious beliefs and unconscious biases that we have to help emerge to relate to the stories that we create about our lives. But in the case of children, in a way, they are blank slates. They are newer to the situation. sometimes they see things with greater simplicity. There's not so much of a story being applied. And then they're also looking up to adults to how they manage stress and situations. So they feed on what we model. And I think that with children, meditations generally need to be shorter because their attention span is shorter at the developmental stage that they are. And breath work also works beautifully. In my experience, younger children are more open to certain resources and to you walking them through mindfulness. And then as they get older, kids and teens nowadays are so smart, so informed. They have access to social media. They have access to resources. That's when I feel that they need to understand the why of mindfulness, why self-care, why how to handle stress, and why they should do it. And so they want the science. So the practices may be very similar. What changes is the approach.
Gotcha. And so tell me, how did you come to get to develop this app? And we're going to talk about that because I think that that's something, especially nowadays, I think particularly as moms, we're juggling a lot. We're high achievers in our families as well as, what we do day to day. And I think having things that help us out really, really go a long, long way, right? So I know we're going to talk about the app, but how did you go from, your executive coaching and, practicing well-being and wholeness to getting to the point of, what, I need to develop an app. That's not something that just, comes to mind, or maybe it does, right? So how did you get to that point of developing something that can be, I think, so profound, especially in the current state that we're in, all of us?
I think it was thinking about how to meet people where they're at, how to meet high achievers in their busy lives, in the small amounts of time that they can, put aside for taking care of themselves. I've been coaching for several years, and it was also me asking myself, okay, what do I wish that all my clients had? If I could have them with me for a much longer time than our specific coaching engagements, if I had endless amounts of time, what skills would I want to give them? And also seeing from my experience with the numerous clients that I've had and the workshops, what really works, what is well received, what skill and what tool and what framework from neuroscience or mindfulness or positive psychology have I seen that they take it and they run with it and they still use it even after engagement has ended. So it was like my whole wish list, and I was thinking, okay, which course or which workshop do I organize to give them this? And I have clients who we've finished our coaching engagement and they come back because they want to learn more about something that I mentioned somewhere in a session. And so then one day I said, well, maybe what I want is to be able to have something that can walk with this high achiever in their journey and that they can consume it at their own pace. And what I love about the app is that it's not just passive consumption of knowledge. It personalizes the journey with exercises so that it tweaks itself to what every person needs, because everybody's wholeness journey is different.
Wow. So it's tailored for the person. Let me back up a bit. I wanted to get your thoughts on what is a high achiever in your thoughts. What would you say is a high achiever?
I have a very personal definition of what is a high achiever.
Right.
And I've been blessed to work with so many incredible people. I think a high achiever is someone who cares deeply about impact and contribution. And they also pursue excellence.
Got it.
And in the way, that's why sometimes they don't have enough. We don't have enough downtime. I mean, it's a high achiever has immense curiosity about causes and business ideas and how they can engage with the world.
Interesting. And I wanted to just back into that because I think people have different definitions of what a high achiever is. I know it comes to mind. Most high achievers are stressed because they're juggling a lot of different things, and their passion and the way that they feel about their causes comes into play a lot, right? So I think by you creating this app specifically for high achievers, it helps to balance them and keep them leveled, if you will, right? So tell us about the wholeness journey, right? Is that the name of the app?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's designed in a way that in the beginning, when you onboard, you answer different questions so that the app can situate where you are. And there's 3 phases to it. Modeling my own coaching program, which goes from a phase of clarity to one of connection, so that you have aligned action now that you know what you want and what you need, to confidence, so that you build the skills to actually confidently move in the direction that you decided. And each one of those phases has approximately 10 lessons, and each lesson includes a daily briefing, positive psychology or mindfulness tool, and a reflection exercise. It can be a meditation, it can be journaling. And as the app, it uses AI also, because as the user feeds in its own personal information, the bulk of my work in creating the app was feeding it my own coaching model, all my tools, a lot of my content of what I do face to face with a client or with a group live. And so that's when it can, based on what the user is answering and what it's reflecting and what is needed, it can tweak and change the lesson. So to give you an example, if the user came because they want to better manage stress and they're answering in that direction, and there's a lot of assessments that they fill out throughout the app.
Okay.
As they progress through the app, then perhaps the app will include more meditation and more breath work or more compassion exercises, which is a big, I call it the big C.
Okay.
It's a big attitude that sometimes is missing in our high achieving lives.
Interesting.
And if, for instance, the user reported more wanting to work through a transition or gain greater clarity about what's next in their life, then as they answer and they do the exercises, perhaps it's not so much going to be breath work or compassion. There's going to be a lot of more assessments or well-being models and strengths and values clarifications to help them gain greater clarity about what's next for them and how to choose between the options that they're facing.
Oh, interesting. Wow. So it really is a personalized tool, and it meets the high achiever wherever they are and can help them on their journey. So it not only manages stress, but it helps to balance out what it is that they do day to day too, right? Like how they navigate their world for the most part, right? Interesting. And so I know you talked a little bit about, I guess, the purpose and why that you do that. Does your coaching complement the app as well? Like they go hand in hand?
So the app is separate from the coaching that I do live, but it is based off of my coaching style, my coaching methods. It has several coaching questions for reflection. And it has like a personalized AI coach that the user has. And the reason I chose this format for the app is because I wanted it to model what happens in a coaching session with me. When I work with a client one-on-one, the beauty of coaching is that it's based on autonomy and self-efficacy theory. The client chooses what they're coming to coaching for. It's supposed to empower them. They choose where the session is going. And then I'm there to walk with them and ask them the questions. I don't have a prescribed agenda because I'm not a mentor, I'm a coach. I'm going and it's the challenge and the beauty of it. I'm going where the client is going, and in the way we're after a goal that they set.
Got it.
And so that's what I wanted the app to model. I wanted it to go in that dance at their pace, which is different for everyone.
Right. Wow. And would you say that just based on, I guess, the initial navigation of it, right? Does it help to not only to manage the stress, not only to help level things out also, but does it make its way to being a part of someone's life? Like they really could use that as almost like an assistant, if you will, when it comes to their wellness journey and alleviating stress. Could it be like an assistant to a person based on, you know what, I have my stressometer here that's going to help me navigate whatever it is that I'm going through?
It does assess your level of stress, and you report how you're doing and progress. I think that more than an assistant, and I'm getting the image of a cane, more than a cane or something that can support you, it's a tool that you can use, and the frameworks and the science-backed tools that the client gets through the app, that's what stays with them. And there's so much that has been researched in the field of mindfulness and in the field of positive psychology, science-backed things that we know work to help us thrive and flourish. We just didn't learn that when we were young. The science is so new.
Right.
But I can't tell you how many times, months or even years later, there's a framework that I offered to a client in a coaching session that is science-backed, evidence-based. I'm a very evidence-based person. And they took it and they learned it and they applied it, and then I run into them and they're like, remember that health framework that you taught to me? Thank you. I still use it. I taught it to my kids.
Wow. So you know that it lasts, it resonates.
Yeah,
for the most part.
It's the concept that allows you to see things differently, to reframe, to repurpose, to know how to hold things sometimes. Sometimes things just you need a way to hold it.
Right. Which makes sense. Wow. That's interesting. So let me ask you this. High achievers are often, driven and very successful, right? Where is the line that they need to draw, like, so that they know that before they get to that stage of burnout, right? Is there a definitive line where they can say to themselves, oh, you know what? No, this is getting out of hand. I need to pull back. Or is it something that they just walk into and burnout is there?
No, I think it takes years even for burnout to show up. Yeah. So it's a very small incline of red flags that you start ignoring until you end up in even beyond burnout. The first signal is when you start to feel jaded, when you're no longer curious about your work or your job, and you feel that it's more of the same, or that cynical tone instead of that curious tone, that's a red flag. But even before that, the body has a way of talking, and that's one of the things that the practice of mindfulness cultivates. It's that embodiment, that learning to read the language of the body, of how it feels. Are you sitting in openness? Is it telling you something that is off? Because sometimes you start not feeling fulfilled, and it's not a thought that you get saying, oh, I'm not feeling fulfilled. I'm not finding meaning from this. It's a sensation in your body and a feeling that you can't pin and you can name, and we tend to ignore it and just grind through. And one of the main causes of burnout that we ignore is it's not an unhealthy workplace or the amount of hours that you work. Because think about the last time you did a project that you loved and you were super engaged. How many hours of sleep did you get? And that didn't make you sick.
Right.
It's when your values change, or the values in the situation and the priorities change, and there's no longer alignment between what you value and is important for you and what you are doing. And if that feeds your values, and values change. And I think that's the greatest contribution of the field of positive psychology that I'm immersed in. Values change, and we don't go back to revisit it. We continue chasing the dreams we set for ourselves when we were 20. And it takes so much courage and clarity to redirect.
Right. Interesting. And would you say that before you get to that burnout stage, there are some things that you can do to keep yourself from going over the edge, if you will, before you get to that point, right? I know you talked about there's inclines and there's red flags, but what are some things that we could do to make sure that we stay on the other side, I guess the inside of burnout?
So there's the physical aspect, and I think we have a lot of information on that. Exercise, nutrition, sleep, connection with loved ones, and those who reminds us of who we are or who we want to be.
Right.
You know, a positive environment, nature, and we live in paradise, and sometimes don't take the time to, you know, to use that is there. But then on the internal aspect, watching your thoughts and being able to really thought sort and take the time to process those feelings. When we feel shame, guilt, anxiety as an emotion, when we feel all these emotions that we label them as negative, but they're not negative. They are dials that are, they're molecules for action. That's how I like to call them. When we feel all these emotions, we tend to like ignore them and keep on going. Sometimes a negative, strong emotion doesn't mean that we're already burned out. It doesn't mean that we're suffering from anxiety. It doesn't mean that, generally, it doesn't mean that we're, getting depressed. It just means that we need to sit down with the hard things. And when we sit with it and allow it to be here, and when we find ways to be with what is difficult and still be okay, we gain insight. And from that insight comes the clarity to know what to do next, what to change, so that we don't end up in burnout.
I like that. I like that a lot, because I think a lot of times everybody's on this wheel, right? This wheel of everything, the wheel of life. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to get here. I have to get there. But I think you mentioned something so key, that clarity, like it's almost like clarity in the moment, and having that understanding, okay, you know what I need to be doing, where I need to be, and just taking a moment to have that understanding of, okay, it's clear now. I know what it is that I need to do. So let me ask you this. You talked about science-based or science-backed tools. What are some of those? Because I know science goes hand in hand with psychology, because it is a practice of science. But how does the whole, I guess, element of the science-backed tools come into play with wellness and wholeness and mindfulness?
So both the fields of psychology and positive psychology and even neuroscience, I mean, there's so much research and there's so many interventions that have undergone their double-blind control groups. We know they work. We know for how long. We know how to do them. And so I believe in having a robust skill set, a tool set. I think we all have the knowledge that we need to exercise and eat this way and take these supplements and go. I mean, it becomes a to-do list that even adds more to the burnout. It's like,
right.
I mean,
check.
The day's almost ending. I haven't finished work and I still haven't, and I have to cook the healthy meal. So beyond that, it's having the tool of, okay, with what I have today, what can I do? Can I do a compassion practice? Can I use, I'm stressed and I don't know how to name it. Can I use the SCARF model, which is one of the most important stress models, to really try to understand what is it that is stressing me out? What's my stress triggers? They're different for everyone. Can I do certain types of breath work? Let's say box breathing, which has become very famous, to like level out. But do I need to upregulate because I'm going into a very important meeting and I'm feeling like down and tired and I didn't sleep? Can I breathe to upregulate?
Got it. Wow.
Or can I do a loving kindness meditation to feel more connected because I'm going into a meeting where I'm, creating an alliance, and I cannot go in with this feeling of apathy that I have because there's something very difficult going on with my loved one and I just wish I wasn't here.
Right. Yeah.
So it's stuff to self-manage, and to be able to recognize an emotion, allow it, and then let it go, and use it as information for action.
I like that. Yeah. And you talk about the SCARF model. What is the SCARF model?
So the SCARF model is a stress model created a few years ago. And what it says is that we all have different stress triggers. So sometimes when you're stressed about something, it's not that the situation in itself was wrong,
right?
But that it touched a trigger. So what did it threaten? It may have threatened your sense of status.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And status for everybody means different things.
Right.
Means paying different mortgages
Right.
or
Right.
affording different types of things. Um, it can trigger your sense of certainty.
Mhm.
The brain was not designed
Yeah.
to work well in uncertainty. It was designed to predict so that it could be efficient. So when we are in uncertain times, and I think we now live in very uncertain times,
Mhm.
it throws a fit.
Right.
It really does.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
we're not programmed to work that
Mhm.
way. So
Mhm.
that's when all these tools work.
Got it.
It can, the SCARF model also talks about your sense of autonomy. Is something threatening my sense of autonomy?
Mhm.
What I have to do for work, how I need to perform, what I need to do for my business.
Right.
Or it may threaten the quality of your relationships,
Mhm.
or it may threaten your sense of fairness.
Mhm.
So when something is really bothering you and it's, it's happened on Monday and by Thursday you're still looping
Right.
about it, and it's affecting your whole outlook. They say that when you name things, you tame them.
Mhm.
But it's so hard to find ways to gain that clarity to name them. So these
Right.
frameworks, these models, like the SCARF model, you can sit down and be like, oh, now I understand.
Right. You have something to work from.
It's my
by going
sense of
that.
fairness.
Right.
That's why it bothers me so much.
Wow, interesting. That's eye-opening though, But let me ask you this, do people really take the time, I guess, people that you've worked with, do they take the time to really want to understand these different frameworks and these models, right? Like, you have your coaching clients and, you sit down one-on-one with them. When they go home, are they thinking, oh, you know what? Alejandra told me about the SCARF model, so let me put that into practice. Is that something that you find your clients do? Like, do they gravitate to those models and those frameworks when they're not face to face with you?
High achievers do.
Okay.
I mean, coaching has a component of accountability.
Right.
It's sent us homework, and
Gotcha.
And sometimes they'll call me and Alejandra, I've been so busy. I want to do the session because I need to talk about this, but I haven't answered that. And so we go through it in the session, and that's why I'm a big proponent of meeting people where they're at.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because the format of something shouldn't prevent you from being able to do it because life got in the way.
Right.
So high achievers do it.
Gotcha.
Because they like to complete things. But also in a way, I mean, it's not, and that's what I love about the app, that it's personalized, just like coaching. Mm-hmm. They're not going through just a checklist of tools. Mm-hmm. It's the tool or the framework or the concept, and it's just an offering. They can choose not to do it, but generally they do. Okay. That is pertinent to the situation that they're going through. And I think that one thing that happens with high achievers is that we're also curious about the world. Mm-hmm. And so committed to contribution. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that curiosity is not shifted inward to getting curious about ourselves, and we forget about ourselves. And so that's where the judgment comes in, and there's not enough compassion. Mm-hmm. Right. And so there's not enough time for slow thinking. Mm-hmm. And that's what a coaching session or a meditation workshop or even the app offers. Gotcha. That time and space for safe, slow thinking, and kind of like a question or an exercise for you to do it and to allow yourself to be human. Interesting. Wow. I like how you talk about the slow thinking, right? And I'm just, listening to you. It's like a little coaching session. I'm like, okay, slow thinking, like to take the pause and to really think about things and think them through, right? And I think specifically for high achievers, it's so hard. I'm just thinking about the balance and the day to day and, staying the course of what needs to be done. Right. But thinking about how you've developed, the wholeness journey, this app where it really does offer some relief for high achievers, right? And just the fact that your focus is on high achievers, I think that's great, because I think a lot of times people don't look at high achievers as, okay, you know what? There are lessons there for high achievers to learn, to adapt, to help navigate whatever journeys that they may be on. And I think with this wholeness journey and how you've developed this app, it really is like a conduit or a help
to helping high achievers specifically on their day-to-day, right? And being able to manage being a high achiever specifically, because I think, with a high achiever has different modalities and different schedules and a different thought process than somebody else may have. So being able to break that down, I think that's commendable. That you've been able to do that, and specifically now with everybody trying to juggle so much, your app I think is great, a great way to try to help. Like I said, just try to balance things out. But let me ask you this: when it comes to the wholeness journey, where do you see, I guess, the robust aspect of it, right? Because how long have you had it now, Alejandra?
I just launched
Right, you
it.
just
I mean,
launched
I've
it.
been coaching for many years now,
Right,
from
right,
workshops, but
right.
as an app, I just launched it
Wow.
this week.
So this is all new,
Yeah.
like completely new. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. Completely new. And what do you expect to gain from your app? What do you want it to really be known for high achievers?
I think that it's a great tool to have if you want to look inward, if you need a companion for growth and for insight. And I hope that high achievers find that as an offering, that asking for help is a sign of resilience, but sometimes we need to feel worthy of asking for that help.
Right.
And sometimes it's easier to start with the app before we get to something else. So what I'm trying to do is offer different avenues, right, so that my voice offers tools and awareness about how important it is to not live at surface, right, but like way above surface. Right. Otherwise, if you live at surface, anything that happens will sink you down.
Right.
So I hope that this app can be widely downloaded and used by all types of people. Maybe you don't consider yourself a high achiever, but you go online and it draws your attention. You still want to grow. You want to earn skills. You can do it there, and that they have avenues. That's why I have my coaching program. I do one-on-one sessions. I do group sessions. I do workshops. I have a meditation course, different delivery methods, because I believe in meeting people where they're at.
I love that. So tell our audience and our viewers, where can they locate you, find you, get in touch with you to find out more about the app as well as your coaching business?
So my website has a lot of information. It's theblisswell.com. I'm on YouTube and Instagram, like @theblisswell. They can also contact me via email, via phone. I'm here in South Miami, right, in the area.
Okay. Perfect.
And if there's a population that I love to work with, is Miami natives and Miami transplants, as some of us call ourselves. I think that the wealth of experience and knowledge and culture and diversity that we have in this city, and the amount of care that I find in every person that I coach, we're just blessed. And I think you see it every day with the interviews you do.
Right. Yeah.
We have so much talent and so much commitment to the city.
Perfect.
So email, phone,
wonderful,
social media.
All right. I love it. And I thank you. I've learned some things. I'm sure our audience has as well. I thank you for being here and taking the time. Congratulations on the Wholeness Journey app. I know I am going to do what I need to do to get in sync with it, but I thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing me on.
And that concludes this edition of What's Happening South Miami-Dade. We'll catch you next time.